When I invited my family to my award ceremony, the biggest night of my life, my sister rolled her eyes and said, "We don't have time for stupid awards." My mom agreed. My dad shrugged. Nobody cared. I just smiled and said, "All right." Because what they didn't know was that the ceremony they dismissed so easily would soon be broadcast live on national television. And that night, what they saw, what the entire world saw, left them frozen, speechless, and suddenly desperate to undo their biggest mistake. But it was too late. Stay with us, this story will leave you speechless. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Growing up, I learned very early that in my family, I was the one people forgot about. If my sister sneezed, the whole house rushed to bring her tissues, tea, a blanket, half the world. If I won first place at school, someone would glance up from their phone and mumble, "That's nice," before moving on. It wasn't that they hated me. No. It was worse, they simply didn't see me. My sister, Emily, was the sun in our household. Loud, dramatic, always in the spotlight, always talking about some new obsession, a concert, a party, a trending celebrity drama. She didn't earn attention, she just absorbed it. Mom adored her. Dad praised her. And me? I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the girl who handled everything herself. People outside our home saw me differently. Teachers praised my dedication. My mentor called me one of the most promising talents of her generation. But inside my house, I was just the kid who blended into the wallpaper. I remember once, years ago, showing my mom a short film I made for a class project. It had taken me weeks, planning, shooting, editing, reshaping every frame. I stood there nervously, waiting for her reaction. She watched 5 seconds and said, "Honey, can you move? Emily needs help getting ready for her school dance." 5 seconds. That was all my accomplishment deserved. I learned not to expect applause. Not to expect excitement. Not to expect anything. So I built my world quietly. A world where my creativity mattered. Where my hard work meant something. A world where people didn't treat me like an afterthought. But despite everything, despite the years of being overshadowed, a small part of me still wished, hoped, that someday, my family would look at me and finally say, "We're proud of you." That tiny hope, fragile as glass, is why I invited them to the award ceremony in the first place. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Maybe they would finally care. Maybe they would show up. I should have known better. That morning, as I rehearsed how to tell them, my hands were trembling, not from fear of failure, but from fear of being dismissed again. All my life, I had been the invisible daughter. But the ironic thing about invisibility is this. Sometimes the world notices you long before your own family ever does. And soon, they would learn. In the most public way imaginable. Exactly who I had become. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my tiny desk, sipping lukewarm coffee and editing a project I'd been working on for months. Nothing unusual. My days were quiet, predictable, built on routine and discipline, the complete opposite of the chaos my sister called normal life. My inbox pinged. At first, I didn't even look. I thought it was another newsletter or some random notification I would delete later. But something, instinct, curiosity, fate, made me click. The subject line froze me. "Congratulations, you have been selected as a national honoree." At first, I thought it was spam. Then I saw the sender, the National Creative Arts Foundation. Real. Verified. Prestigious. I clicked the email with shaking hands. As I read each line, the room seemed to tilt. My short film, the one I'd poured my soul into, the one I created in silence while my family ignored me, had not only been nominated, it had won. I had been chosen to receive the Emerging Visionary Award, one of the highest honors for young filmmakers in the country. Only 10 people were selected nationwide. 10. Out of thousands. And the award ceremony? It wasn't in some small hall or school auditorium. It was a national, televised event. Red carpet. Press. Industry legends. A room full of the most influential people in the creative world. My name, was going to flash on screens across the country. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just another achievement. This was validation. Recognition. Proof that I wasn't invisible. Not to the world. Not to the people who mattered. My eyes blurred as I reread the message, half afraid it would vanish if I blinked. All those nights staying up until sunrise. All the rejection emails. All the times I forced myself to keep going even when nobody believed in me. It all led to this moment. I pressed my hands over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. Joy, relief, disbelief, everything collided inside me at once. Then, slowly, reality sank in. This was huge. This was life-changing. This was the moment I had always hoped my family would celebrate with me. A new thought formed in my mind, hopeful, fragile. They'll be proud this time. They have to be. Right? I sat back, heart pounding, already imagining telling them the news. Maybe they would smile. Maybe they'd finally see me. Maybe they'd finally show up. Little did I know. Their reaction would break something inside me that would never fully repair. I waited until dinner to tell them. My family was gathered around the table, Mom scrolling on her phone, Dad reading sports updates, and Emily complaining about her weekend plans falling apart. Typical evening. Typical noise. Typical disinterest. I sat quietly, rehearsing the words in my head. Just say it. Just tell them. This was supposed to be my moment. Finally, when there was a brief pause in the chaos, I cleared my throat. I have something important to share. 3 heads turned toward me. Not with excitement. Not with curiosity. Just mild annoyance, like I was interrupting something far more important. I swallowed hard. I won an award, I began. A national one. And the ceremony is this Saturday. I really want all of you to come. Before I could even finish, Emily let out the loudest scoff. Seriously? We don't have time for stupid awards, she said, rolling her eyes dramatically. I'm going to a concert that night. Actual fun. Not, whatever this is. I felt my stomach twist. Mom didn't even hesitate. She already bought the ticket, honey. Don't expect her to cancel. Dad shrugged without looking up from his phone. We're busy too. Don't blame us. You know how things are. Don't blame us. Those 3 words felt like a punch. They didn't even ask what the award was. Didn't ask why I was nominated. Didn't ask if it mattered to me. They dismissed it the same way they dismissed everything about me. Emily smirked, twirling her hair. Why are you acting like it's a big deal? It's probably one of those participation trophy things. My jaw tightened. She had no idea what she was talking about. But what hurt most was how confidently she said it, because that's how little they thought of me. I looked at them, one by one. My mom, already back on her phone. My dad, checking sports scores. My sister, texting about her concert plans. And I realized something painful. They weren't refusing because they were busy. They were refusing because they genuinely believed nothing I achieved was worth their time. Still, I forced a smile. All right, I said quietly. It's fine. Nobody noticed the crack in my voice. They went back to their conversations, the moment already forgotten. But as I sat there, staring at my untouched dinner, a strange calm washed over me. They didn't want to see my moment? Fine. Because soon, the whole world would. And that night, when the cameras turned toward me, when my name echoed across the country, they would understand. But far, far too late. My family thought the award was some tiny school-level recognition. A participation badge. A meaningless certificate printed on cheap paper. They had no idea what it actually was. The day after they dismissed my invitation, I sat at my desk scrolling through the event details again, not because I needed to, but because I still couldn't believe any of it was real. The Emerging Visionary Award wasn't just an award. It was the award. The kind given to people who go on to change industries. Directors who later win Emmys. Writers who end up on global stages. Creators who build legacies. And this year's ceremony? It wasn't happening in some local auditorium. It was being held at the Grand Solaris Theatre, a venue lined with gold pillars and velvet carpets, a place I had only ever seen in magazines. The guest list made my heart pound. Top producers. Award-winning actors. The heads of major creative studios. Famous influencers, industry legends, international press cruise. And most unbelievable of all, the ceremony would be broadcast live on national television. My name was printed in the official program. My photo was featured in the event's social media campaign. My film was going to be showcased on the big screen in front of thousands. I had spent years quietly creating in the shadows, editing alone in my bedroom, recording audio under blankets to reduce noise, filming with borrowed equipment, teaching myself everything through trial and error. Nobody saw the work. Nobody saw the sacrifice. But now the world would see what grew in the dark. I imagined my family's reaction if they knew the truth. If they knew I wasn't just receiving a small award, but stepping onto a stage that could open doors people only dream about. Would they still say they didn't have time? Would Emily still snort and call it stupid? Would my parents still choose a casual Saturday at home over the biggest night of my life? I wanted to tell them. I wanted them to understand how monumental this was. But the memory of their dismissive faces echoed in my mind. No time for stupid awards. We're busy. Don't blame us. So I said nothing. I kept the magnitude of it all to myself. The red carpet, the cameras, the speeches, the millions watching. Let them think it was small. Let them underestimate me. Because soon, when they turned on their TV that night, they wouldn't just see my award. They would see everything they had overlooked for years. Shining under center stage lights, beaming across the entire country. And it would hit them like a shockwave. Too late. The days leading up to the ceremony were supposed to feel magical. The kind of days filled with butterflies, excitement, family cheering in the background, maybe even a handmade "We're proud of you" poster taped to the fridge. Instead, they were quiet. Almost painfully quiet. On Wednesday, I went dress shopping after work. The boutique was warm and softly lit, mirrors lining the walls, mannequins dressed in fabrics that shimmered under the spotlight. As I browsed through the racks, I caught myself imagining something ridiculous. My mom standing beside me, giving her opinion, saying things like, "That color looks beautiful on you," or "Let's find something that makes you shine." But reality quickly corrected me. I was here alone. And the only voice guiding me was my own. After trying on 8 dresses, I finally found one that made me pause. A deep sapphire gown, elegant but not flashy, the exact shade that made my skin glow under the lights. When I stepped out of the fitting room, the boutique assistant gasped softly. "That's the one," she said, smiling warmly. Her excitement felt like sunlight. For a second, I let myself pretend that she was family. That someone, anyone, was proud of me. I purchased the dress and carried it home carefully, like it was a fragile secret. The moment I walked through the door, I heard Emily laughing loudly on a video call, Mom humming while rearranging flowers, Dad shouting at the TV during a game. None of them even glanced at the garment bag in my hands. Nobody asked where I'd been. Nobody wondered why I looked so flushed and happy. Nobody cared. I slipped into my room, hung the dress on my closet door, and sat on the edge of my bed. This was supposed to be the part where families rally together, where mothers fuss over hair and makeup, where sisters argue playfully over accessories. But I had become very good at celebrating alone. So, I practiced my speech in the mirror, reading it over and over until my throat tightened. I rewrote it twice, then again a third time, wanting it to be perfect, wanting it to mean something, even if the people I loved most wouldn't be there to hear it. Late at night, when the house fell silent, I rehearsed walking across the stage. I imagined the bright lights, the applause, the cameras. And every time, a small ache tugged at my chest. Because in my mind, I still pictured an empty seat where my family should have been. But even so, I kept preparing. Because this moment wasn't for them. It was for me. The night before the ceremony, the house buzzed with energy, but none of it had anything to do with me. Around 6 p.m., I heard Emily squealing from her room as she tossed clothes onto her bed, preparing for her concert. Mom was helping her choose an outfit, holding up tops against her like she was dressing a model for a magazine shoot. "That one looks perfect on you," Mom said. "You'll stand out." "And we need to leave early," Emily replied. "Traffic is crazy on Fridays." They were planning, laughing, excited. Meanwhile, I sat quietly in the living room, polishing my speech cards, smoothing the edges. I kept glancing toward the hallway, waiting for someone to say something, anything, about the next day. But nothing came. Dad walked in, jingling his car keys. You girls ready for dinner? I'm taking everyone out tonight. Everyone? I asked before I could stop myself. He blinked, surprised to hear my voice. Oh, well, we figured you were busy with your thing tomorrow. Didn't want to bother you. Your thing. My award ceremony. The biggest moment of my life reduced to a vague, meaningless thing. Emily twirled her hair dramatically. Yeah, besides, you'll be fine. It's not like you need us to breathe. They laughed. I didn't. But I smiled anyway, like I always did. It's okay. You guys go. Mom paused briefly at the door. Good luck tomorrow, sweetie, she said casually. Not proud. Not excited. Just filler words. They walked out together, Dad leading, Mom chatting with Emily, all of them glowing with excitement for their night. I stood at the window and watched them get into the car. They didn't once look back. When the headlights faded, the house fell into a hollow silence. I sat on the couch, the TV flickering in the background, and suddenly felt the weight of everything I'd carried alone for years. I thought I was used to it, being overlooked, being the afterthought, but somehow, tonight hurt more than usual. Maybe because I had allowed myself to hope. Maybe because I wanted them to want to be there. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. Not because I felt weak, but because tomorrow, I would walk into a room filled with thousands of strangers cheering for me, while the people I loved most would be sitting in a crowded concert venue, not even thinking of me. I wiped my tears, sat up straight, and whispered to myself, this is your moment. With or without them. And for the first time, I truly believed it. The next evening, the world felt different. I stepped out of the cab and froze. The Grand Solaris Theatre towered before me like something out of a dream, golden pillars glowing under bright spotlights, a long red carpet stretching forward like a path to another universe. Cameras flashed continuously as celebrities, creators, and industry giants stepped out of black SUVs and limousines. For a moment, I couldn't move. This is real, I whispered to myself. A staff member wearing a headset approached with a warm smile. Name, she asked. I swallowed. I'm on the honoree list. For the Emerging Visionary Award. Her eyes widened in recognition. Oh, you're her. We've been waiting for you. Before I could even process that, she signaled another staffer, and suddenly I was being escorted past the crowd, past velvet ropes, past security, straight toward the front of the red carpet. Photographers turned. Cameras pivoted. People murmured. I was used to moving through life unnoticed. But now, hundreds of lenses were pointed at me. Look here. Smile for us. Congratulations. What an achievement. Their voices rose like a wave. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, not from fear, but from something deeper, something electric. A man beside me whispered to his assistant, she's the youngest honoree this year. Another said, her film, breathtaking. She's going places. They were talking about me. Not Emily. Not anyone else. Me. I walked the carpet slowly, letting the moment sink in. My feet trembled slightly inside my heels, but I lifted my chin, breathed deeply, and let the cameras capture a version of me I had never seen before, confident, capable, worthy. Once inside, the theater was even more beautiful. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting warm light across the velvet seats. A gigantic screen displayed the event logo, surrounded by gold-framed spotlights. A coordinator led me down the aisle. To the front row, she said. The front row. Where nominees, honorees, and influential names Saturday. I slid into my seat between a well-known documentary filmmaker and a best-selling author, people whose work I had admired for years. They turned to me with genuine smiles. You're the young filmmaker, right? Your vision is extraordinary. I watched your short film last week. Stunning work. I couldn't even respond at first. Their praise hit so hard it felt unreal. As the lights dimmed and the opening music echoed through the theater, a single thought filled my mind. My family had chosen not to be here. But the world had chosen to see me. And tonight, I would finally step out of the shadows. The ceremony officially began with a swell of orchestral music that vibrated through the floor. The host stepped onto the stage, charismatic and confident, greeting the audience with humor and charm. Laughter rippled across the theater. I tried to focus, but my heart kept pounding like it was trying to escape my ribcage. Front row. I was actually sitting in the front row. Every time I shifted slightly, the silky fabric of my gown whispered against the velvet seat, reminding me this moment was real, physical, unrepeatable. People around me weren't random attendees, they were giants. To my left sat Marcus Hale, the documentary filmmaker whose work had once inspired me to pick up a camera for the first time. To my right was best-selling author Nora Lowell, who'd written novels that made me cry at age 15. And then there was me, the girl whose family couldn't spare an evening for her. As the presenter announced various award categories, applause swept through the audience like a tide. Some winners cried on stage, some laughed, some trembled, and I found myself feeling everything with them. Whenever someone delivered a heartfelt speech, Marcus would nod thoughtfully. Nora would whisper observations about storytelling. And every now and then, both of them would glance at me with warm encouragement, as if preparing me for what was coming. During a short intermission, Nora leaned toward me. "I watched your film twice," she said softly. "It's the kind of story that stays with you. You have a gift." My breath caught. I had spent years doubting myself, questioning whether my work mattered, convincing myself that maybe my family was right to ignore it. But here I was, hearing praise from someone whose opinion carried weight far beyond my household. A staff member approached then, speaking to me directly. "Just letting you know, you'll be called on stage soon. Stay ready." My chest tightened. My hands grew cold. This was happening. As the ceremony continued, I stole a brief glance at the empty seat beside me, the one I had reserved just in case someone from my family changed their mind at the last minute. It stayed empty, untouched, unclaimed, just like the space they had left in my life. The host's voice boomed again, smooth and powerful. "And now, the award many of you have been waiting for. The Emerging Visionary Award, honoring groundbreaking creativity, unmatched dedication, and a young mind shaping the future of storytelling." The audience erupted in applause. My heart began to race. This was my moment. In a room full of brilliance, I wasn't invisible. I belonged. The lights dimmed further until the entire theater shimmered in gold and shadow. A hush fell across the audience, thousands of people holding their breath at once. On stage, the presenter lifted the golden envelope. "This year's Emerging Visionary Award goes to..." My heartbeat roared in my ears, drowning out everything except those next few seconds. "To a young filmmaker whose work stunned our judges with its emotional depth and mastery. Please give a round of applause to..." I closed my eyes. Her name flashes across the screen. The audience erupted. Cheers. Whistles. Thunderous applause that felt like a wave crashing over me. For a moment, I couldn't move. The applause got louder. People around me stood. Nora touched my arm gently. Marcus smiled proudly. "You deserve this," he whispered. I rose slowly, my legs trembling both from shock and the overwhelming swell of emotion. The spotlight followed me as I stepped into the aisle. Cameras flashed from every direction. This was it. The moment my entire life had been leading toward. I walked up the steps to the stage, every footstep echoing inside my chest. The presenter extended the award, heavy, shining, warm under the lights. "Congratulations," he said. When I turned to face the audience, the sight took my breath away. Rows and rows of glowing faces. Thousands of people clapping. Millions watching from home. I approached the microphone, my hands shaking, the award held tight against my chest. For a heartbeat, I couldn't speak. Then I remembered every night spent working alone. Every time my achievements were dismissed. Every look of disinterest from my family. And suddenly, the words came naturally. "I grew up feeling invisible," I began. The quiet one. The kid who worked hard but never quite fit into the noise around her. But creativity became my voice. My safe space. My reason to keep going even when no one seemed to notice. You could hear the silence deepen, people leaning closer. I learned that sometimes, you won't have a cheering section. Sometimes, the people you expect to believe in you won't. But that doesn't mean you stop believing in yourself. The camera zoomed in. I felt tears burning at the corners of my eyes. So this award, it's not just mine. It belongs to everyone who kept going in the dark. Everyone who fought to be seen. Everyone who ever wondered if they were enough. You are. A standing ovation shook the entire theater. As I left the stage, overwhelmed and breathless, a single thought formed with crystal clarity. My family wasn't here. They didn't see it. But the entire world did. And what happened in their living room at that exact moment would change everything. While I was standing on the biggest stage of my life, wrapped in applause and golden lights, my family was sitting comfortably at home, completely unaware. Emily was sprawled across the couch, scrolling through Instagram, humming along to some pop song. Mom was folding laundry. Dad was flipping through TV channels, looking for the sports recap. What's on tonight? Mom asked casually. Dad shrugged. Some award show or something. Probably boring. Award show. He stopped on the channel for a moment only because the bright stage lights looked interesting. Leave it, Emily groaned without looking up. I don't want to watch dumb celebrities crying over trophies. Dad nodded and started to change the channel. But then. Wait, Mom said suddenly. Go back. I just saw someone who looked familiar. Dad flipped back. The stage filled the screen. A crowd was standing, clapping fiercely as the camera zoomed in on someone walking up to the microphone. Mom squinted. Dad leaned forward. Emily lowered her phone. It couldn't be. But then the camera focused. And my name appeared in giant letters across the screen. Their jaws dropped. Emily sat up straight so fast she almost fell off the couch. Wait, is that her? Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God. Dad blinked like his brain couldn't catch up. That's our daughter. They'd never seen me like that. Confident. Radiant. Standing under the spotlight in a sapphire gown, holding an award with both hands. Their living room fell silent. And then they heard my voice. I grew up feeling invisible. Emily's face turned pale. Did she invite us to this? Mom whispered. Dad swallowed hard. She did. We said we were busy. Emily looked like she'd been punched in the chest. Oh my God. I called it stupid. On screen, the audience cheered as I delivered the most emotional lines of my speech. At home, my family flinched with every word. Each sentence hit them like a truth they had been avoiding for years. Mom started crying first. Dad's face collapsed into guilt. Emily stared at the screen, frozen, pressing a hand over her heart. She's so talented, Mom whispered. I didn't know. Dad shook his head slowly. We should have been there. What were we thinking? Emily's voice cracked. We messed up. Big time. They watched the rest of my speech in complete silence. No interruptions. No excuses. Just a sinking realization. That while the world had celebrated me, they had ignored me. And now, they were too late. Back at the theater, everything moved in a blur. The moment I stepped off stage, the hallway filled with reporters, photographers, influencers, and coordinators rushing like a river of noise and excitement. Can we get a photo? Your speech was incredible. You're trending right now, #3 nationwide. Your story is inspiring millions. Phones flashed. Microphones pointed toward me. People I had admired from a distance were suddenly reaching out to shake my hand. But the real storm was happening online. While I spoke on stage, social media had exploded. Clips of my speech spread like wildfire. On TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. The lines I spoke about being invisible, about persevering alone, about believing in yourself, they hit people deeply. Within minutes, hashtags appeared. #emerging visionary. #she did it. #invisible to invincible. Celebrities shared the clip. Well-known directors praised my creativity. Students posted how my words made them cry. Strangers wrote long paragraphs about feeling seen through my film. One video of my acceptance speech crossed 1 million views before I had even sat back down in my seat. I scrolled through comment after comment. Who is she? I need to see all her work. She's going to be huge. This speech healed something in me. Protect this girl at all costs. It was surreal. All this love from people who had never met me. Meanwhile, something else was happening. My sister's friends started messaging her. Dozens of notifications popped up on her phone back home. OMG, is this your sister? She's on TV. Dude, she's trending everywhere. Why didn't you tell us she was famous? I'm crying watching her speech. Your sister is incredible. Emily stared at the texts, completely stunned. She refreshed my name on Twitter and watched the follow count rise in real time, thousands per minute. Mom's phone buzzed too. Her co-workers wrote, "Is that your daughter on TV? She's amazing. You must be so proud." Mom wiped her eyes, overwhelmed with guilt she didn't know how to hide. Dad sat motionless in front of the TV, watching the replay, his lips pressed tightly together. But inside the theater, none of that reached me. I was surrounded by people who believed in me, people who had recognized my skill, celebrated my work, valued my voice. I should have felt on top of the world. And I did. But beneath the joy, a quiet ache remained. Because the first phone I wished would ring still hadn't. At home, the moment the broadcast ended, panic set in. Mom stood frozen in the living room, tears clinging to her lashes. Dad's remote trembled slightly in his hand. Emily was pacing back and forth, one hand pressed to her forehead like she had a migraine. "She invited us," Mom whispered hoarsely. "She asked us to come. And we didn't," Dad muttered. His voice was hollow, drained of all color. Emily sank onto the couch, face pale. "I called it stupid," she whispered. "I said it wasn't worth our time. I said." Her voice broke. Mom turned on her, eyes red. "Why did you say that? Why do you always?" "Me." Emily snapped back, guilt twisting into defensiveness. "You and Dad followed my lead. You didn't even ask what the award was." Dad rubbed his forehead, shame settling in heavy layers. "We should have cared. We should have listened. God, what have we done?" The three of them stared at the TV, replaying the moment my name was announced, hearing the roar of applause, watching me shine under the spotlight, alone. Mom broke down completely. "I didn't know," she cried. "I didn't know it meant so much to her. I didn't know it was this big." Emily swallowed hard. How could she not tell us it was televised? Or that it was national? Or that? Dad cut in sharply. "Are you listening to yourself? She did tell us it was important. We didn't want to hear it." Mom nodded slowly, painfully. "We brushed it off. Like always." A heavy silence filled the room. Then, Emily grabbed her phone and dialed my number. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. She sent a text. "OMG, I just saw you on TV. Why didn't you tell me it was this huge? I'm so proud of you, call me." No response. Mom snatched her own phone and called. Straight to voicemail. "Honey, I'm so sorry. We should have come. Please call me back. We want to talk." Dad tried too, leaving a shaky message. "We're proud of you. Really proud. I'm sorry we weren't there." The house filled with the sound of phones vibrating. Call after call, message after message, each one more frantic than the last. Emily's voice trembled as she stared at the unanswered texts. "She hates us," she whispered. "We broke her heart." Mom covered her face with both hands. "She needed us, and we failed her." Dad looked toward the door, as if expecting me to walk through it. "We need to fix this," he said. "Before she decides we don't deserve to be in her life anymore." But the truth was, that decision was already forming in my mind. Back at the theater, after dozens of interviews, congratulations, and photos, I finally stepped outside into the cool night air. The buzz of the city wrapped around me, humming with life and energy. I took a deep breath, letting the moment settle into my bones. This night was mine. When I finally pulled out my phone, I expected maybe a few notifications from friends or classmates. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. 47 missed calls. 80 text messages. 17 voicemails. All from the same three people. Mom. Dad. Emily. My breath caught. For a moment, I simply stared at the screen, watching the numbers rise as more messages poured in one after another. "Mom, please call me. Please." "Dad, we're so sorry." "Emily, OMG, answer me, please. I messed up." It felt strange. Hours ago, they couldn't spare 5 seconds to acknowledge my achievement. But now they were overflowing with messages, flooding my phone like a dam that had finally burst. Their sudden desperation didn't feel like love. It felt like guilt. I unlocked my phone slowly, scrolling through the messages. Mom's texts were frantic. I didn't know it was such a big deal. You looked beautiful. We're proud of you. Call me back. Dad's messages were heavy with shame. I'm sorry for not listening. You deserved better. We should have been there. Please talk to us. Emily's texts. They hurt the most. I didn't mean what I said. Your speech made me cry. I can't believe I called it stupid. Please don't hate me. My fingers hovered over the screen. A part of me, the part that had spent years seeking their approval, wanted to reply. Wanted to believe this meant something. Wanted to believe they finally saw me. But the memories came rushing back. The dismissive looks. The rolled eyes. The years of being overshadowed. The way they rejected my invitation without even thinking. They didn't value me. They valued the version of me that millions of strangers were suddenly praising. So I turned the phone face down on the seat beside me. The screen lit up over and over, vibrating relentlessly. I didn't reach for it. Not because I wanted to punish them. But because, for the first time in my life, I chose me. The girl who worked in silence. The girl who grew in the dark. The girl who finally stepped into the light on her own terms. I closed my eyes and let the phone vibrate into silence. Whatever they had to say could wait. Because tonight, I wasn't the invisible daughter anymore. I was someone the world had finally seen. I barely slept that night. Not because of excitement, but because of the messages. Every hour, more calls. More texts. More apologies. By morning, my phone showed over 130 messages. But still, I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. Not out of anger. But because I needed space to breathe. To feel. To understand what I wanted, not what they suddenly wanted from me. Around 9 a.m., there was a knock on my apartment door. Not a gentle one. A desperate, frantic pounding. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, my family stood there, 3 faces full of guilt, fear, and something I had never seen from them before. Recognition. Emily's mascara was smudged from crying. Mom's eyes were swollen. Dad looked like he hadn't slept at all. For a long moment, none of us said anything. Then Mom stumbled forward and wrapped her arms around me. I'm so sorry, she whispered into my shoulder. I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked, and before I could react, Emily joined her, clutching my arm tightly. I was awful, Emily sobbed. I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean it. I didn't know it was that big. I didn't know you were worth something. I finished quietly. Emily froze. Dad stepped forward, wiping his eyes. You were always worth something. We just didn't show it. I stepped back, putting a little space between us. For the first time in years, I didn't shrink. I didn't fold into myself. I didn't pretend it didn't hurt. I invited you because I wanted you there, I said softly. Not because I needed your approval, but because I thought maybe you'd want to share the moment with me. Dad nodded slowly. We should have. We didn't understand. That's the problem, I replied. You never try to understand. You don't listen. You assume what I do is small because you don't care to look closer. Mom covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. We love you, she whispered. I took a breath. The words I had carried for years finally surfaced. I needed love before the cameras, I said. Before the stage. Before I was trending. Not after. Silence. Raw, painful silence. Then I continued, steady and calm. I'm not cutting you out of my life. I'm not cruel. But things will change. I'm not going to beg for your attention anymore. If you want to be part of my life, then you need to show up. Genuinely. Consistently. Emily sobbed harder. Dad nodded. Mom reached for my hand. And for the first time ever, I was the one setting the terms. For a long moment, the 4 of us simply stood there, caught between the past we couldn't change and the future none of us fully understood. My mother squeezed my hand gently, almost fearfully, as if she was afraid I might disappear again. We'll do better, she whispered. I promise. Dad nodded beside her, shoulders slumped with sincerity. You deserved our support a long time ago. We failed you. But if you let us, we want to earn our place back. Emily wiped her face with shaking hands. I don't want to be the sister who tears you down, she choked out. I want to be the sister who brags about you. Who shows up for you. Just, let me try. Their words were soft. Uncertain. But honest. And I stood there, letting their apologies settle into the quiet, letting my heart measure each one carefully. For the first time in my life, I wasn't desperate for their approval. I wasn't begging for their validation. I wasn't waiting for them to choose me. I had already chosen myself. I stepped back and looked at them, really looked at them. Not as the people who overlooked me. Not as the voices that dimmed mine. But as flawed humans finally facing the consequences of their blindness. I'm not shutting the door, I said. My voice was steady, unfamiliar in its strength. But I'm not opening it all the way either. I need time. I need boundaries. And I need proof, real, consistent proof, that things will be different. Mom nodded quickly. Anything you need. Anything. Dad swallowed hard. We'll show you. Emily nodded too, her voice barely a whisper. I love you. Even if I never said it right. I breathed in deeply, the kind of breath that clears old wounds and makes space for healing to begin. Then we'll try, I said quietly. Relief washed over their faces, but the truth remained. This wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. This was the beginning of something new. A relationship balanced on respect, not desperation. On effort, not assumption. After they left, I sat alone in my quiet apartment, sunlight spilling across the floor. My award gleamed softly on the table beside me. I ran my fingers over the engraved letters of my name. The world had seen me. The industry had recognized me. Millions had heard my voice. But the greatest victory wasn't the applause, the cameras, or the standing ovation. It was finally understanding my own worth. Not the worth handed by family. Not the worth begged for. Not the worth granted too late. But the worth I had built myself. Piece by piece, moment by moment. In quiet halls and lonely nights. And as I sat there, the city humming outside my window, one truth settled in my heart. They finally understood my value. The moment I stopped seeking their approval. This time, I was choosing my future. On my terms. And that was everything.